freaking first cut. Golly.
Welcome to the First Cut Podcast. I'm Rick Gehman, and this is your mega preview pod for this week's The Sentry. It's storylines, it's best bets, it's our one and done selections, a new season of one and done where you, the fans, can also compete individually. More on that in just a second. Joining me to break it all down, Patrick McDonald is here. Patrick, good day. Happy 2024.
Happy New Year, guys, and the Sentry. Not a lot of creativity going down there in Ponte Vedra naming those tournaments. But I do have a question for you guys. How long is too long to say Happy New Year?
The 6th.
No, earlier.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'll say we run into each other beginning of February somehow.
No.
February?
Say you run into each other at the Sony Open and you have not seen Patrick in 6 months. You're not going to say Happy New Year.
That would be like the 8th, 9th, 10th.
Yeah, any of those. I said 6th. You said earlier.
Well, so you're saying that's too late. Also,
yeah, I thought mine was very early.
I guess I'm just thinking in the context of people that I'm around, like in my neighborhood or in my community. And if I saw them like at the end of this week, and I was like, I don't know, I think you give it a week. So yeah, I guess Rick is right. I'll go with Rick.
Okay. I'm 1-0 in the new year. That's Kyle Porter. KP, did you make any resolutions, any goals for 2024?
Oh, I've always got a spreadsheet of goals, Rick. Just dialed up. One of my goals for 2023 was to move my handicap 5 strokes. The problem was it went the wrong way.
Mission accomplished.
So yeah, yeah. So I guess this year I have to move it 10 strokes. I don't know. Do you have a handicap goal, Rick?
Yeah. So what I do is I try to do, what are they called? SMART goals. I can't remember what it stands for, but it's like actionable is one of them.
Measurable
is one of them. Yeah. There's 3 others. So I try to do SMART goals. So I will always do, okay, move my handicap to something that I think is kind of realistic. And then I'll take it a stroke farther than that. Or like some of the goals that I have with maybe it's growing the business are always like what I think is reasonable. And then I'll do like a stretch, like 20% of that. So I'm currently a 6.5. My goal is a 3, which I think is very, very reach for the stars like, but if I get to a 4.5, I'd be thrilled.
Where do you have to improve the most, you think?
I know for a fact it is chipping and pitching, which Same. I just for the first time. So I started taking lessons this time last year, and we just did a short game. Like I at least have a plan now. I have like 1 shot. Before I had 0 shots. Now I have 1 shot that I'm getting more comfortable with. And that's translating on the golf course. So once I start improving there, the strokes will fly off.
Nice.
Yeah, that's mine too. I've been hitting it pretty well. Putting fine, but the chip. I mean, I have the yips, Patrick. Like, legitimately have the chipping yips.
Are you a big Texas wedge guy, or do they just call it a wedge there? Like, what's that like?
Yeah, anywhere I can, putter comes out.
Okay,
but like, what I was playing with some guys on New Year's Eve, and one of my friends was like, "Yeah, you're kind of just making this move at the ball where you're not like getting through it. You're kind of just." You're stabbing at it and your club head's not getting through the ball. I was like, yeah, that's also known as the yips.
Thanks for bringing it up.
That's a problem. No, he was very kind about it, but I mean, I don't know. I could probably solve that and something else would break, but that to me is like my biggest issue right now.
Okay.
Do you know who is credited? Little impromptu trivia.
Oh, great. Bring that up too.
Who is credited for inventing the modern sand wedge, aka the bounce on the wedge?
Bob Vokey the first.
I mean, I guess that's a very good guess. If you have no idea, that's a pretty good one. It's not right, but it's a good guess.
I don't even know if I have a guess.
What if I gave you his nickname? We can combine 2 trivia questions into one.
Byron Nelson.
Nope. the Squire.
Oh, Sam Snead.
Oh,
I thought it was.
No.
I thought the Squire was Gene Saracen.
Gene Saracen, yeah.
Okay.
I was getting the knob and the Squire and what was it?
the nude knob.
New
the
knob.
knob.
Gene Saracen is credited for inventing the modern wedge. The reason that I bring that up is because in my lessons, Patrick, I'm very scared to hit the ground. Now the bounce, I'm supposed to be thanking Gene Saracen, like that is supposed to help you. You use that, you smack the ground, everything works out perfectly. So I've been thinking a lot about old Gene, the Squire, as I've been out there trying to smack the ground and use the bounce.
Yeah, I think really it's just all about maintaining your aggression through the ball, not being afraid to kind of slap the ground, hit the ball, depending on what type of shot you want to use. But
I'm terrified of that right now.
I think Rick, I like the way you go about your goals, the smart thing.
Yeah.
I've heard of it. I don't know what any of them meant before you guys rattled off a couple. I'm kind of the exact opposite. Like I go mega unattainable goals. And if I reach one, it's like, holy cow, I just did that type of deal. And so my big golf one this year is to attempt to qualify for the US Open. I'm about like a scratch right now.
To attempt to qualify for what does that mean?
Pretty much just to sign up and play.
Oh, the goal is attempt to qualify.
Yeah. Attempt.
So that's filling out a form and paying $150 or something.
Correct. Which I think is pretty big. I mean, I haven't played, I was going to say professional golf. I haven't played competitive golf since, oh gosh, like my junior year of college, maybe.
What the goal should be make the US Open.
Yeah. If you actually have shoot for the stars goals, like that should be it. I don't know that.
Maybe the second round.
Based on your definition, it should be make the US Open, but
should be win the US Open.
What do you think?
All right, guys.
Could you imagine if 1 year from today, Patrick McDonald has won the US Open? It is technically possible. It is,
guys, it's in my neck of the woods.
Which is amazing. That's an amazing thing, right?
All right. I like this, guys. Okay.
What do you think is the worst handicap that gets to like sectionals?
+4.
The worst?
I was gonna say like probably like a scratch who balls out in the first 18.
Yeah, I guess you could do that too. I just know like there's so many +2s and +3s that I see all the time who are unbelievable. Like there's just so many of them now. They're so good. They're all so good.
Yeah. I think first I need to start like playing golf again. I only clocked like maybe 8 rounds in 2023 and 5 of them were in about 1 week.
If I was you, if I was single and really good at golf, I would play so much.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why. So that's another goal. That's a smart goal for me, is just to play more golf.
Smart goals, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, or realistic, depending on who you ask, and time bound. So you have to basically have a specific, you have to say, okay, by the end of the year or within 6 months or whatever it is, I'm going to do this very specific thing that I can measure and that I can achieve, that is in my wheelhouse. It's not saying I'm going to eat better. Eat better means nothing.
Yeah,
right?
that's I hate stuff like that.
Yeah.
Those are my goals.
But saying I'm going to burn more calories than I take in, and I'm going to count calories and all that stuff, and within 6 months, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do 75% of my days, I'm going to be at a deficit. That's a smart goal.
For sure. What if this time next year I'm drinking out of one of these puppies and Patrick's drinking out of the US Open trophy?
It'd be great for ratings, I would imagine. You still have to come on after each round of the US Open and recap your round.
Patrick, we met.
I would legitimately poop my pants on the first tee at Pinehurst number 2 if I had to hit a tee shot Thursday morning.
Have you played Pinehurst number 2?
No, it's a point of contention with my friends right now too, because our buddies trip is going to Pinehurst number 2 in like end of February, beginning of March, and they picked a week I couldn't do it, so I'm a little butthurt about it.
I'll be in Napa that week if you want to come fill out a foursome with us. We got 3. But
Wait, which
can't go.
of the US Open?
No. The end of February, first week of March.
Okay.
There's a February 29th this year. It's a leap year.
Yeah, it's an Olympics year.
Olympics year, leap year,
Election year,
President's Cup year,
for sure. President's year.
President's year. Who knows? We are back, obviously, because we just spent the first 11 minutes vamping about nonsense. And we will do this now 6 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Hit the like button. Make sure you are subscribed to the Golf on CBS YouTube channel. Join us in the chat. Josh, as we go through this, there was a lot of throw some comments up there. We'll take care of those. And now, when we get to the one and done section, fans can participate like they never have before. They have their own individual entries. No longer is it a fan vote. You can go and enter. There are currently, that's even more than when we started the show, 271 in the contest right now. It's being hosted on Run Your Pool. There is a link in the description of this podcast. There's a link in the description on YouTube. There's a link in the description wherever you are consuming this. You will now compete with us by yourselves. The deadline for the first pick this week is 2:30 p.m. Eastern time on Thursday. Us as the panel, as the show, we will release ours at the end of the show. KP, this is a little scary because no longer do we have to try to beat the other half dozen. There's now going to be a bunch of sand pounders telling us how stupid we are and how much better they are.
Yeah. It's I was not consulted on this decision. And if I had been, I wouldn't have allowed all those poundings. What's the rule here, by the way? Because I feel like not only are we exposing ourselves.
Yeah, we are, baby. It's 2024 and we're exposing ourselves.
We got a trench coat on right now.
but we're also like, we have to make our calls by now, and other people can make their calls by Thursday.
Yeah.
That seems crooked.
Well, it's called a built-in excuse, KP. So if things go sideways, we will use that as our issue, as our excuse, people able to game theory us. The one thing that Greg and I mentioned yesterday is if this does get down to the home stretch and one of us is near the top, we might have to hold back a release so that we're not getting played, but we'll worry about that. Hey, this is the gift and the curse of being in the middle square on the First Cut pod.
Is that why Mark's not here today? Because he's waiting until Thursday?
He refuses to give up his picks early.
I would not be shocked.
I honestly wouldn't either.
This guy's already playing chess against us.
I would not be shocked if Mark, who is scheduled to be here, who bailed out once he found out that his picks were going to have to be released at 5 o'clock on a Tuesday. Yikes. Yeah. One final item, then we'll get into this because we haven't yet. We are up for the best golf podcast. Shocking. There must not be a lot of golf podcasts out there. Take a minute to cast your vote. The link is in the description. The best golf podcast archives, Josh is telling me, sports podcast group. Click through. Give us there we are. Oh, you know what? No, these are actually some other good, very good podcasts that are up here. Oh, guys, we are competing with, first off, Beef's Golf Club. Okay, that did not get the reaction I was hoping for. The Open Podcast, Sky Sports, Golf Digest, Beyond the Fairway, the Ryder Cup Pod. This is a who's who.
Who are these people? Who are the sports podcast group?
I think that's who's investing in the PGA Tour.
Oh, the SPG. You're right. I forgot. Yeah,
an independent entity that was created to unite. Grow the game. Global sports podcast industry. The awards are just the first initiative with a content platform and multiple live events to follow.
Oh, well, thank you for the nominee. I don't think this podcast has ever lost the SPGs. So let's bring that trophy home.
So Patrick has something else to drink out of instead of the US Open trophy.
Yeah. US Open. I mean, I did lose the emoji trophy. Not bitter at all.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Greg has it now.
Yeah. Talk about feeling exposed, KP. Just nothing next to my name.
I've thought about that Tiger Woods question like 27 times since our.
I ensure you will. I ensure
it was
you'll
on Rick's
never
newsletter. It was on Rick's newsletter today.
You'll never forget it.
Today?
No, a different Tiger Woods question was on it. The runners up was on my newsletter today. Kyle's talking about the second longest streak at number one in the world.
It was unbelievable. I mean, you were in the right. I'm just a moron.
Someone once told me that being technically correct is the best way of being correct. Can't argue with it.
Yeah.
All right, let's jump into this. News and notes. The PGA Tour and the PIF have extended the deadline amidst negotiations. Patrick, we kind of assumed this was coming. The original December 31st deadline was sneaking up on everybody very, very quickly. The PGA Tour has advanced talks with the SSG, and they are also hoping to get a further investment from the PIF for this new entity, but the new goal to finalize the deal is the 2024 Masters.
Couple things here. One, talk about a New Year's Eve news dump. That might be one of the first ones ever. The tour coming out with their memo on this. Two, in the memo, they didn't even specify the extension date. They just said, hey, we're going to keep working together. And three, I think this is ultimately going to be a good thing. I know the Telegraph's reporting the deadline's sometime before the Masters. I would think they want to get it done much before that, just not to mess with Augusta National. You know, His Excellency still needs a membership there as well. So that's certainly on the mind. But I think long-term, it's going to be good for them to not rush into a deal just because of a deadline that they put in by themselves. And so there's so many positives for each party for them to get this deal done that I'm pretty confident it will get done. And so, hopefully it'll come out better on the other end of it.
What other options do they have, KP? A deal has to be done. It's just how palatable said deal is for all parties involved. It is, the press release that you imagine the PGA Tour is going to be able to run out is, hey, brand new billions and billions and billions of dollars of investment. It just happens to be coming from SSG and PIF and anybody else who wants to get involved. But the idea that I personally believe the idea that a deal doesn't get done seems like the PGA Tour would be setting up its own funeral.
Did you guys read Dylan DeShare's piece for golf.com
with Patrick Cantlay?
No, he had that, but he also had one. What was it last week, Patrick?
Yeah, it was before Cantlay, kind of on everything surrounding the negotiations and what's going on.
Yeah, you should go read it, Rick. It's really good, really interesting, some good reporting in there. But he basically says that a lot of people that he didn't. I don't think he was necessarily reporting this, but that he was reporting that Liv did a revenue sharing deal with the CW for their TV contract, and that based on their audience, other people were saying, yeah, they probably earned about $2 to $3 million a year, which is
I did see that part,
which is a comical number, right?
$2 to $3 million for a business that spent hundreds of billions is the same as
hundreds of millions.
Is the same as zero.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. It's effectively zero. And I guess my point in that is like the tour right now has the opportunity to call Liv's bluff, because Liv is basically saying, we'll keep spending, we'll keep spending, we'll keep spending. And we don't care if we make money or not. And the tour can say, we don't believe you, so good luck. I don't know if that's a wise move by the tour. You better be pretty sure if you're making that call. But that opportunity is definitely there, because there's no, I mean, I read that and the way it was framed, or the way that Dylan wrote it, it reframed the Rahm signing as Liv saying to the tour, we're not bluffing. Like, we'll take everybody. And I don't know which side of that I believe. And I think you have to for the sake of your organization, err on the side of like, yeah, they're probably not bluffing. We need to do the deal, right?
That's my feeling. Yes, is that if they are bluffing, you're still not in that great of a spot. And if they aren't bluffing, you cease to exist. So I think that you should probably say, okay, maybe they're not bluffing. Let's take this a little bit seriously.
What if they are bluffing, like Kyle is, potentially saying, but then they get OWGR points in 2 or 3 years?
That's the other thing.
And it's like,
yeah, we've talked about that a lot, Patrick, is like Live, oh boy, because of its like startup nature and non-requirement to be profitable forever if they wanted to, they have a lot of outs. There's a lot of ways this goes, whether it's, hey, we're just going to focus on cutting, oil deals with diplomats that want to play with Phil Mickelson in pro-ams, or whether it is going to be, oh, well, now we have OWGR points and now we actually like are a thing and we can monetize this in the future. There's just a lot of outs with the way that Live is currently structured. There's not a lot of outs for the PGA Tour in the way that they are currently structured.
Yeah, I think it, what Kyle and Dylan are potentially saying, I think is interesting. I think it'd be extremely ballsy for the PGA Tour to, call them on this potential bluff. But I think there's just so many positives for everyone involved. I mean, the PIF, the PGA Tour, and SSG, for these three parties to come together to not just lay down your swords and figure something out.
The other thing about that, KP, would be the one. There's not one, but the most valuable asset that the PGA Tour has, not only in its legacy, in its history, is in its existing infrastructure of revenue, of TV deals, of sponsors that Live has been mostly unable to court.
Yeah, and I think that's the other thing is like, you're either, if you're the tour and you don't do the deal, which I think they will, but if you don't do it, you're either saying we think you're bluffing, or you're saying we think you're bluffing and we don't think this is going to work for you in the long run. And I think that, I don't know, I mean, think about how long it took the tour to kind of build up that infrastructure, right? It took a really, really long time to get to the $700 million a year mark that they have with the media rights with CBS, NBC, ESPN, whoever else that they have deals with. And I don't know. The math just doesn't work for Live. It just doesn't. But like, even though that's true, I don't know if you can, or if you should call it. I'm with Patrick. I think there's like tremendous upside for both parties to coming together. I just don't know. Like, I think the question that I've had, and maybe we talked about this a couple of weeks ago when we talked about it, is like, okay, so if they officially merge and the PIF has an investment in the PGA Tour, does that mean Jon Rahm gets to play the Memorial this year?
Imagine, dude, if that's true, he made out like a bandit, right? Got $300 million for doing basically nothing and missing 3 months worth of PGA Tour events.
Yeah, I mean, but that's probably what's going to happen. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think they're going to merge. I don't know if he's going to get to play the Memorial. I don't know what that's going to look like.
Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe it'd probably be, all right, in 2025, we'll kick this thing off, make it official.
What does this thing look like? Because that's the other thing, Patrick, is I don't know. Okay, let's say they do come to an agreement. What does 2025 look like? The top guys play Live events and the signature events? The top guys who, like, would they require
it's so much
Rory to have a team? Can Rory opt out of having a team? Like, I don't even know what it actually looks like that does not literally create a PGA Tour and a PGA Tour Plus or whatever else you want to call it, because there's no way the guys who are then going to be asked to play majors, signature events, maybe live events are also going to roll up to the 3M Open, the Rocket. That's already so much. I don't know what it looks like.
Yeah, it's a really good question. And I'm sure the people, behind the walls don't even know what it might look like for them. I'm sure they're trying to figure out, oh, what if we just made the live players playing the signature events? Would that be something that they'd be interested in? The team component seems like a really big talking point among everyone. I know Tiger Woods has brought it up multiple times. Do they turn the fall into some sort of team series? Do they do some sort of Champions League? Do they do some sort of playoff format that is team based? And the regular season is kind of something along the lines of Premier League soccer, where you just get points and points. Say your team captain finishes first in an event, and that gives you X amount of points for your team as well. And you can add the team component that way throughout the year, and it keeps on adding on and on. I don't know. There's so many options for them to have. I think it's a good thing and a bad thing, where it's tough to narrow it down to what will be good for the fan if they are thinking about the fan, and what will be good for the players and how much they're going to play. Because Liv has 14 events. You tack on 8 signatures plus 4 majors. The guys aren't going to want to play that much golf. These guys, they want to hover around 20.
That's the thing, KP. There are a lot of options. I agree with that, but there are still a finite amount of times you are going to get Jon Rahm to play golf in a year.
Well, and the thing about this, Rick, is I don't know that I trust either side, the tour or live, to come up with something that's palatable for fans. I mean, what has either side displayed throughout all of this that makes you believe that they're thinking about like people that watch it, that care about it?
No,
I totally agree. And I think that's why SSG and those guys, Cohen, Blank, and the rest of those team owners are going to be like pretty big in this and figuring out what the future is going to look like.
But do they, I mean, are they incentivized to, I mean, they're in, why, I guess, why do you say that? Like, do you
because
trust them?
They have expertise in the space already between football, baseball, the NBA.
Yeah, I guess.
I trust them more than the PIF and the PGA Tour.
I just think that like so much of this is almost institutionally baked in. Like Arthur Blank might be able to say like, oh, look at my revenue for the Falcons. It's like, I don't know, man. Like, I think that's just because the NFL is the most popular thing in the world. Like, I don't know that was anything that he did. Yeah.
Being a good owner is not a prerequisite for making a ton of money in the NFL.
Well, and that's a little bit of how I feel about the tour against Live right now. Is like, I think the tour just has an institutional head start, and I think sometimes the tour looks at itself and they're like, oh, we've like nailed some of this stuff, and it's like, I don't know. I think you just had like a 40-year head start or a 60-year head start or whatever it was.
Fascinating stuff. We hadn't talked about Live or the PIF since last year, but so I wanted to make sure we covered it right out of the gate. We are going to turn our attention to Maui, the Plantation course at Kapalua. Then we will provide our picks for the week and reveal those pesky one and done selections. But first, we're going to take a quick break and hear a word from our partners.
The Scudetto, where the soul of Italy meets the pinnacle of calcio. Catch Serie A on CBS Sports Network and streaming live on Paramount Plus.
And we're back. We're headed to the Plantation course. We're headed to Kapalua. This is not the Tournament of Champions. This is the Sentry. It is an event that is now compiled of the top 50 in the FedEx Cup points from last season and any winners who did not otherwise finish inside that top 50. Patrick, it revealed a 60-player field in which Rory McIlroy decided not to play. So we are down to 59 no cut, 4 guaranteed rounds to kick off the 2024 season.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of my favorite events of the year just because it gets the juices flowing. You got Rolfing talking about trade wins. You get the whale montages. I mean, it's great late night viewing. The views of the golf course and the elevation changes are terrific. And, Joseph Boza in the chat, 700 FedEx Cup points to the winner, which was a point of contention for those lower class players where the churn rate might not be what the models had suggested. Maybe they didn't realize this year was a leap year. Like we mentioned at the top, maybe that might change something. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited for it. I'd be pretty shocked if one of the top tier players isn't going to win this tournament. And like Jon Rahm did last year, it's a great chance to kickstart your year and, I mean, start running downhill and go on a potential tear with this new signature event series that's only 80 players and the cuts are limited. I mean, we could see someone like a Scotty Scheffler or someone like a Victor Hovland just rattle off, 3 wins in the first 3 months, kind of how Jon Rahm did before he won the Masters. So I know it's kind of laid back there in Maui, but I'm sure some guys are really up for the test this week.
I've got kind of an opposite view of Patrick, Rick, in that, and I said this last week, but I have felt more bummed out about Kapalua this year than before, because I think that Rahm's absence is really meaningful. And I know not everybody feels that way because people have varying opinions on Rahm and pretty hot takes on Live and the tour, everything that goes along with that. But there's a real gravity to tournaments that Rahm participates in, wherever they are, whether it's on the European Tour or Live, PGA Tour, majors, whatever, because he's, I think, a generational player. I think it's him and Rory. And if you want to throw DJ in there, DJ's a little older than Rory, who's a little older than Rahm. But I think those are your 3 guys from the last 10 years who are generationally great, depending on how you feel about Spieth and JT. Those guys have been probably more up and down. Rahm has been consistently one of the 3 best players in the world for 7 straight years. And that's a trajectory that not a lot of guys have. And so to me, this is the first time that I've really sensed this lacking at a tour event that was a big time tour event because of a Live exodus. Bryson and DJ and all that, those were obviously big names that left, but I didn't feel the gravity of it like I think we're going to with Rahm. And I don't know if you agree, disagree, but that's kind of been my feeling going into this week.
I think that for me personally, I like to look at the field that is put in front of me and try to find who is going to separate themselves from everyone else. However, I think that what is kind of baked into the weekly PGA tournaments is those guys who matter. Jon Rahm matters, and also who the defending champion is. And we are going to be reminded of Jon Rahm's absence here. Riviera. What else am I missing? American Express. Was there one more? Or was that it? He went on a tear early last year. But we're going to be reminded of Masters. Well, I guess he'll be there though.
Yeah.
But we're going to be reminded of the absence, which is part of what bums me out, because it to me by default makes it feel a little bit worse when that guy doesn't have to show up and defend his title, or not that he doesn't have to, that he's not. And it's because he's not allowed or whatever. It will make the tournament feel smaller.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's a little bit of what I'm saying. And yeah, that stinks. It stinks. And I think a lot of people have alluded to that. And I think some people, some of the response was like, well, Jon Rahm, the ratings won't be any different. And you're like, well, that's not, yeah, of course not. But that's not a wrong, that's because there's nobody that the ratings would be different for unless 10 people left or whatever. Even then, I don't know how much different they would be. I think the ratings are kind of just the ratings other than Tiger playing or not playing.
I kind of think that too at this
point.
I mean,
for the most part, we'll see. I mean, we'll see in 2024 whether that changes, but it's not about the ratings. It's not about whether Rahm moves the needle. I don't disagree with any of that. I'm just saying personally, the gravity of Rahm as the defending champ, as arguably the best player in the world, not just right now, but over the last 7 years, not being there is like, oh, like that's like a just kind of taking the air out of the balloon for me a little bit.
How do you think, Patrick, the signature events are selected?
Are selected?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, kind of like behind the door handshake situation. You scratch my back, I scratch your back.
Hey, AT&T, because you've been a good sponsor for however long, and you promised to re-up at Pebble Beach for the next 20 years. We'll float you a signature event type of deal.
Yeah, probably. Well, and I think, what was it originally? They said if you hadn't played, never mind. I was thinking about something completely off topic. Like when you hadn't played in yeah.
You had to play one new event every 4 years or something like that.
Yeah, and I think that was like with Pebble Beach in mind, because that field was just getting decimated year after year.
The idea that Phoenix is not a designated perpetually.
That's where I'm at.
Is
preposterous.
Preposterous. But then also the idea of not knowing. The selection of signature events feels a lot like live stuff to me. So live, just golf wise, I've said this a ton. I thought they had two cool things. I thought they had a draft, and I thought being on YouTube was a great thing for them. I think they screwed both of those things up, right? Because the draft was, one team was already set, one team already had three guys. It was just stupid. And then they blew up the YouTube thing. The signature events could have been so cool, where there was like a reveal, whether they rotated every so often, so that every sponsor knew, hey, if you sign off for 4 years, you're going to get a signature event at least once every 4 years. It would have been good for revenue. It would have been a goodwill for your sponsors. It would have been good to get stacked fields at places they never get to go. And of course, it would have been cool to reveal it somewhere. And of course, the way that it's done is opaque and behind closed doors.
I think some of that is because think about the revenue model for the tour in general, Rick. If somebody just asked you, somebody who was maybe a sports fan but not a PGA Tour fan, said, "Hey, Rick, can you explain to me in detail the tour's revenue model?" It would be very, very, very difficult for you to explain and impossible for them to understand. Right?
Yeah.
And so I think some of that is like, and I've said this before, it's almost like the PGA Tour is like this piece of software that got created in 1990, and you, instead of like stripping it down and rebuilding it every 5 years, they just keep adding stuff onto it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the way that fields are constructed. Nobody knows. The players barely know.
Yeah, the new update causes 3 more issues from an update 6 years ago, which does, yes, that's exactly
which to the point we were talking about earlier, they have an opportunity now to do what? To strip it all down and and they probably won't do it. They'll probably just add more software and add more lines of code. We're up to 10,000 lines of code.
More features, more bugs. The favorites at the top of the board are Scotty Scheffler, about 5.5 to 1. Victor Hovland, 9 to 1. Patrick Cantlay at 12 to 1. Actually, Max Homa up there as well. Colin Morikawa and Max Homa, along with Patrick Cantlay at 12 to 1. So there is still, despite no Jon Rahm, despite no Rory McIlroy, Patrick, let's be clear here. There are a lot of big guys teeing it up.
Yeah, I think there's 10 out of the top 12 in the world, according to the OWGR, that is. Which I don't know if we recognize or not these days. But yeah, I mean, a ton of top names, like you just said, and a lot of guys who didn't really do a lot of winning in 2023. Xander Schauffele, Patrick Cantlay, Tommy Fleetwood, who had a great statistical year but didn't win. Tyrrell Hatton, Jordan Spieth as well, 30, coming off that really poor Ryder Cup. He's someone who we talk about the gravity of, someone winning this event and kind of stepping into that shadow that Jon Rahm left. I think if Spieth comes out the gates in 2024 and has a really strong start to the season, I know you can't replace Jon Rahm, but I think his departure would feel, I don't want to say less, but it would be quelled a little bit. I think if a personality and someone as popular as Jordan Spieth got off to a really nice start. And so I think it's a huge season for Spieth in general. 30 now, second kid is there in the house. He's coming off a really poor Ryder Cup. We talk about great Ryder Cup performances propelling people to great seasons, but we've seen a lot of poor Ryder Cup performances do the same. Rory McIlroy in 2021 going into 2022. Fitzpatrick was kind of the same. He became a major champion in 2022. And I think Spieth kind of took it personally, just how poor he played in Rome. And he said something along the lines at the Hero World Challenge where he got there a week early to work on his game for a hit and giggle at Tiger Woods event. And so I'm looking for Spieth to have a good season this year. Now that he's healthy with that wrist, he was kind of humming in the early spring, and this is a great course for him to get started.
If you can find, I was trying to find it, I couldn't find it. Like a PGA Tour money winner bet. Jordan Spieth could not have handpicked a better set of like signature events. He might make $10 million before we get to the Masters. So he's got the Sentry, he's got Pebble Beach, he's got then API's in there, but then he's going to get the Masters.
Really?
He's got RBC Heritage as a signature event. He might make Travelers. He might make $1 billion this year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if he goes to live, he'd probably make $1 billion.
Could you imagine?
Yeah, I mean, Spieth's fascinating. I don't know. Do we know what he is, Patrick?
I think this season defines that for Jordan Spieth because he's out of that 19-20 valley. 21, he wins. He contends at Royal St. George's. 22, he wins at the Heritage. And then last year, he was kind of a ghost after Wells Fargo injuring that wrist and his back. And so I think for him, you talk mostly about Rory McIlroy's second chapter of his career. I think Spieth this season could define that chapter for him. If he's just another guy or if he's someone who's going to contend in major championships, contend for a couple titles each year, or just, pick off a win every, few seasons or whatever it may be. But I have high hopes for him this year. I do.
I think one thing that's going to be interesting, Rick, and you've probably thought more about this than I have, is just this idea it's certainly a different era of guys swinging really hard and chasing speed and all this stuff. How are guys going to be able to stay healthy for 20 straight years? 25 straight years. That's one of the underrated aspects of somebody like Dustin Johnson. Like he's never injured, right? Or very rarely. And you get some guys that are injured all the time. And I think that I don't know that Spieth is necessarily one of those, but he's had some things that have popped up that you're like, man, you not only do you have to kind of duct tape the game together, but you got to keep your body together too as you start getting into your mid 30s. So I think that's going to be I don't know that that's necessarily a Spieth subplot, but I think it's an interesting subplot for a lot of those guys like JT, Spieth, Rory, obviously Koepka. That's been a big issue. Even Bryson and some other guys like that.
That is interesting. That's why Ludwig is going to dominate because he's got the perfect swing. He doesn't put out too much effort and he hits the ball a mile. He's just going to be the best for the next 25 years. We're going to get
I think I'm selling Ludwig right now.
Okay. Hold that thought. We will get we will get that along with our best bets, our one and done selections after a quick break from our partners.
Well, you need your sports news anywhere?
We've got breaking news to bring you.
Then get your sports anytime you want them. Big trade news overnight to discuss.
Because we know you need sports all the time.
A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
A legend adds to their legacy.
We're bringing you that breaking news right here on HQ.
CBS Sports HQ, anywhere, anytime, all the time.
And we're back. Twice a winner worldwide. A Ryder Cupper for a victorious European team, a golfer who ranked, 10th in strokes gained total, 2nd off the tee, 1st in total driving, 6th in distance, 27th in accuracy, 3rd in greens and regulation, 2nd in proximity, 7th in putting average. Kyle Porter is selling on. Kyle, The stage is yours.
I'm selling right now. I'm not selling. I'm holding many shares for the long haul. I'm shorting it for the next 3 months. People have kind of lost their minds over Ludwig. He's amazing, very, very good, tremendous, and I think he'll be really good for a long time. I feel like we've gone a little bit. I mean, he has the same odds this week as he's got like the 4th shortest odds.
Yeah.
Same odds as Xander.
Same odds as Xander Schauffele.
I mean, he might be. I could be wrong about this, and I think that I think one thing that is a little concerning is a lot of times guys like this, it happens earlier to where when they're kind of 17, 18, you're like, you can identify like, okay, that's one of those guys, and he was later. Now, some of that might be an international thing. I don't know. And I think, again, in the long term, he's going to be tremendous. I feel like it's gone a little bit too far in the short term.
The betting markets are protecting themselves from, or you're taking a ton of money on Ludwig, but you're right. The idea that he is 1, 2, 3, third shortest odds with Xander Schauffele ahead of Jordan Spieth, Matt Fitzpatrick, Tommy Fleetwood, and everybody else is pretty telling about what the overall sentiment on Ludwig is at the moment.
I think at one book he's as low as 14-1 to win the Masters, which is insane to me, because I kind of agree with Kyle here where, yeah, he had a fantastic fall and into the summer, but he also hasn't played a ton of tournaments with the big dogs. He kind of ran through the FedEx Cup fall. I know he played great at the BMW PGA with the entire European Ryder Cup team there, but I mean, there are bound to be some hiccups, some speed bumps, and I think it would serve him well if that happened before Augusta to get a little bit of adversity in his way instead of all this smooth sailing. But yeah, I think in general, people are a little too high on him.
How about this? I'm seeing him at 6-1 to win a major in 2024.
That's crazy.
Colin Morikawa, who at last check has 2 of those, is 6.5 to 1. Has longer odds.
Is he the first player since Tiger Woods where his major window being open coincides with him playing in his first major championship?
Keegan.
Well, but we didn't think the window was open.
Shame on me. Shame on me.
It's a good question. It's such a weird thing that he had. I mean, and again, this goes back to what I was saying earlier. So many of these guys have already played. Like Scheffler played in, I think, 2 majors by the time he turned pro. Spieth a couple. You know, like if you're that good, you usually qualify into or figure out how to get into a couple of majors. And for whatever reason, he has not. It just I'm not. Again, don't hear me out. I'm like, I want the 30-year stock. I'm pumping the brakes a little bit in the short term, just because I don't know that the pedigree suggests that he's immediately going to become like a top 5 player in the world, like Victor Hovland did.
Rory McIlroy to win a major 2024 plus 125, nearly even money.
That's crazy.
Shortest odds out of anybody. All right, let's talk best bets. So if you are new, welcome. The way that we do this, Josh, jumping the gun. Jeez, I haven't even explained it yet. We've got 100 smackers that Josh gives us. We take over to our sports book of choice. We find one matchup, we put 50 on it. A finishing position, we put 30 on it, and then 10 each on 2 separate outrights. Then we follow it up with some more. Give you that in just 1 second. Patrick, lead us off here with your matchup, please.
Yeah, all this stock talk. I'm selling Cam Young. I feel like there's a bit of a fire sale going on, potential Wall Street bet situation with GameStop, maybe in the future. But right now we're selling Cam Young. Tony Finau minus 130 over him. Finau's irons were great at the Hero. I love this golf course for him. His putter, do you guys see how he sets up to putts now? He kind of bats his putter a few times. So he looks like he's going to hit like a home run to left field. It kind of gives me a little bit of anxiety, to tell you the truth, but still I like him minus 130 over Cam Young, who I'm not sure who his caddy is these days.
Yeah, Cam Young splitting with Paul Tesori. Tesori on Brendan Todd's bag. KP, you and I have found the same matchup, though we are on opposite sides of it. That matchup, Eric Cole and Cameron Davis. I have taken Cole. You have taken Davis. What's the case for Cam?
Well, I immediately regretted this as soon as I read the Rick Run Good newsletter, because you're talking about how a lot of the collection areas at Kapalua, your drives end up in the same place.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody like Cameron Davis, who's a lot longer than Eric Cole. Eric Cole can kind of match him drive for drive because of the way the course is shaped, and it becomes a little bit of a wedge fest at Kapalua, just because of some of the spots you're hitting from. I think is the highest percentage of shots from 125 and in.
Yeah, it's a huge wedge fest. Yeah.
So I'll stick with the pick, but I do a little bit regret it. I think Cam Davis is a top 20 type talent. I don't think that about Eric Cole. And so this bet is a little bit of a correction to like where they're both situated right now in terms of strokes gained and just like in the overall kind of golf landscape.
And I think I'm similar. I have a similar outlook for, if you said 2024, do you want Cam Davis or Eric Cole? I think I would take Cam Davis, right? But on this golf course, like you said, kind of minimizing the best drivers, making everybody play from the same spots on the second shot. Eric Cole, very good approach player, very good putter. The one thing that makes me concerned is Cam Davis has only played 4 rounds here, and he's played great. I think he hasn't shot worse than 68, which is 5 under. I mean, he's been very good here, so I'm not like super confident in this, but I think this is probably one of the better spots for Cole because of the way that the course sets up. So we'll see.
I like how we both made the case for each other's player.
That's the real sicko way to do this, to like already start life hedging.
It's crazy that Cam Davis is plus, or that I guess it's crazy that Eric Cole is minus 120. Like that seems like even odds at I would have thought at best for him.
He's got 4 top 5 finishes in his last 5 starts or something like that. So yeah, playing well. Finishing position, any finishing position that you want. KP and Patrick both found a top 10. Kyle, let's go back to you here and get yours first.
Yeah, Patrick Cantlay, top 10 plus 115. That interview, we mentioned it earlier, but that interview with Dylan DuCharme, he sounds very primed for what I think could be a big year. And even if it's not, man, his numbers are just so consistently good. He's just 2 strokes gained every single year on the field. And he's played well here before. I don't necessarily think he's going to win this week, but I do like him to play well and finish in the top 10.
Yeah, plus 115 for Patrick Cantlay to get onto the first page of the leaderboard. Patrick, you've got his partner in crime.
Yeah, top 10 for Xander at plus 130. I looked at that Cantlay number, but I figured they're pretty much the same player. You get a little better price for Xander's top 10. He's been money on approach and putting, and his one bugaboo is kind of that waywardness with the driver, which doesn't really matter here at Kapalua. He's a winner. He should be a 2-time winner. He 3-putted the 18th hole that one year. He lost in a playoff to Justin Thomas. So history's good. It fits his eye. Had a WD last year with a weird back injury, but I think he's like Cantlay, prime for a potentially multiple win season, and it could start here. So I like the top 10.
I will never forget that 3-putt because I had bet Justin Thomas that year, and it always feels like that stuff goes against you, that the 3-putt is your guy. And when he ran, I remember watching thinking, okay, 2 putts, he wins this thing on 18. When he ran that first one 5 or 6 feet by or whatever he did, my heart got a flutter, and he misses the comebacker. Now I'm live, baby. Let's go to a playoff. JT, that I will not forget that. I can vividly remember that 3-putt for the rest of my life.
He said he got gusted. That was when he said he got gusted.
Sure.
Yeah.
Me too.
I'm so happy for you, Rick, because that type of stuff usually goes against me. I only remember it because I did bet Xander Schauffele that week. So I'm glad one of us at least got a payday.
Just change your name to Pat Run Good. Things go a little bit differently. I went with Brendan Todd. The aforementioned Paul Tesori on the bag. It's top 20 at plus 240. The blueprint that I'm laying out here is really good course fit guys, or what I think are better fits. Brendan Todd, the way that he loses strokes is off the tee via lack of distance. We've talked about how that is not necessarily as important as long as you hit the correct side of the fairway, and then he can get hot with those wedges and putter. So it's Brendan Todd, top 20 for me at plus 240. We've got 6 separate outrights. We've got a little bit of crossover. Let's start with Patrick, who is basically lone wolf in both of his outright selections and continuing the trend of the Bash Brothers.
Yeah, Bash Brothers, Dumb and Dumber, Tweedledee and Tweedledum, whatever you want. We do need a name for these two. But I went with Patrick Cantlay at 12-1. Like Kyle said, I liked the tone of what he was saying there in that interview for golf.com. And you take out Ludwig from all the stats, the season-long stats. I know he played great, but Cantlay leads in par 4 scoring. He leads in birdie average. He leads in par 5 scoring. Only 3 par 3s at Kapalua, so I think that sets up super well for him. So I like him at 12-1, and then I like Xander as well at 14-1. We talked about smart goals. These aren't necessarily smart bets, but I think one of them might have a chance to win come Sunday.
I was going to say, you know what these two guys don't do?
Win.
Yeah,
Win.
They don't generally win as much as they should. 12-1 for Cantlay, 14-1 for Xander. KP, you and I have also found a 14-1 golfer. It's the same guy. Please let the people know who that is.
Yeah, Colin Morikawa. He has been awesome. I think Morikawa has been who people think Xander has been at this golf course. Nothing worse than a top 7 finish. I think he's T7, T5, and then second last year. Should have won last year. Quietly had the best year of his career statistically last year. Rick didn't feel like it. He didn't win like it, but I am buying Colin Morikawa in the short term.
Preach, brother. Yeah, I mean it is jarring how good he was last year. Got the win late in the year. Everything seems all good. Let's get Colin back to a place that he plays well. Speaking of guys that might not be, perception and reality doesn't line up, I bet Tom Kim at 25-1. Tom Kim is playing now like everyone expected him to play when he won those 2 events immediately out of the gate. And then he kind of had a struggle for the first 6 months of 22. He's playing awesome. I mean, the elite approach play is back. The scorching hot putter is back. I'm not talking a stroke a tournament. I'm talking 3, 4, 5, 6. That's what you need to get around here. He finished 5th. Oh, was it last year or the year before? I guess it had to have been last year because he wouldn't have been around 2 years ago. But Tom Kim is entering. What era would that be for Patrick or for Tom Kim? Patrick, he's entering his 1989, his red era.
I'm thinking he's entering. He's only 21 and a half, but kind of that post-grad, you get your first signing bonus, you move to a big city, your eyes are big, the world's your oyster still. I think Tom Kim's kind of right there.
Yeah. I think he was trying to make a Taylor Swift reference, Patrick.
I thought
I don't know any Taylor Swift.
And Evermore or like a folklore? Is that one of them? I don't know them all.
What did you say, Rick?
A couple of them. Tom Kim 25-1, and KP, you have found the golfer with the longest outright odds on this grid. Tell the people.
Yeah, I wanted to get a little bit deep here because it was easy to stay at the top of the board, but I couldn't get too deep. Although Wyndham Clark at like 65-1 was kind of interesting.
I thought about there was also a Wyndham. I can't remember who the matchup was, but Wyndham Clark was like plus 140 to somebody, and I was like, I should just smash that, right?
He played so bad at the Hero, but yeah, I got Big Tone. Big Tone tends to play well here. Like Patrick said, he hit his irons very well at Hero, and I think he's got a little bounce back coming in 2024. He didn't play very well after the Mexico Open last year. I think he's going to bounce back in the new year, and 33-1 seemed like a reasonable number.
Sheds the, at least for now, the rumors of him leaving and going to LIV. He's going to tee it up this week and stay around for at least a little bit longer. And KP's got him at 33-1. So it's Morikawa, Cantlay, Schauffele, Tom Kim, Tony Finau. Now, because we beg for it, Josh gives us an extra $50 to do anything we want with. KP, as you tend to do, you have backed up a golfer or a similar wager that you made earlier with some extra funds.
Yeah, I'm all the way in on Morikawa this week. Top 10 plus 115. My finish bet was Cantlay at plus 115, but Morikawa is the exact same number, and I'm very much in on that this week.
Morikawa top 10. I went with a nationality bet. I don't do it often, but I saw Matt Fitzpatrick for top Great Britain and Ireland, top GB&I plus 260. The other golfers there, I'm just mostly lukewarm on. That's Hatton, Fleetwood, Rose, Wallace, and Seamus Power. Fitzpatrick's seemingly getting longer. He just posted another thing about how his club head speed is up, his ball speed is up. He's played well here in the past. I think we're getting a pretty good version of Fitzpatrick right now, and I'm not super impressed by the rest of the group that he gets to battle here. So I'll take plus 260 on Fitzpatrick to be top GB and I. And Patrick, it would not be a new year if you didn't start with a clean slate and Patrick's positivity parlay, which I think has hit 3 or 4 times in a row. Does it stay hot after a couple weeks off?
It's hot. It absolutely does. Because I know you said these two guys might not win, but you know what they do, Rick? They finish inside the top 20. So Xander Schauffele, Patrick Cantlay, both to finish inside the top 20 at even money, plus 100. Are you kidding me? That is free. Use your Christmas money. Use it on this, and have a happy New Year. Happy beginning to the new year.
Oh, I used to love. I mean, I still love getting Christmas money. I just don't get it anymore. But I loved getting Christmas money. It's an envelope of cash.
Well, and the
you love me this much.
The ratio of it doesn't mean as much as it did when you were 11.
Yeah. $60 when I was 11 was
like 60,000.
I was Rick Musk with $60.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Totally.
It was crazy. All right. One final thing to do here is reveal the one and done wagers. This is the moment of hope. We are all at $0. We are getting at it right out of the gate with a $20 million signature event purse. The fans are in as individuals. The link's in the description. Go on runyourpool.com. Your pick has to be in by 2:30 p.m. Eastern time on Thursday. Our picks are going to be revealed right now. Josh, fire away. There you go. A lot of similar names. Producer Josh, Greg, myself, and Mark Wrong have all gone with the X-Man, Xander Schauffele.
I love it. I love it, Patrick.
I know.
I hate it.
The basement boys are back.
Yeah, baby. We're gonna run
the basement boys are already puffing out their chests on a Tuesday of the first tournament of the year. Kyle, stop me if I've said it before. You're in on Colin Morikawa.
I'm very in on Colin Morikawa. This is the 1-year anniversary of Crooked Mark picking Jon Rahm after the tournament started. I also picked Jon Rahm to win last year, so I'm trying to go back to back on the one and done.
Crooked Mark. Patrick, stuck with the namesake. It is Cantlay for you.
Yeah, it's going to be a true rags to riches type of story. I know my rookie season I finished last, but it's going to be great. Like, what was that one soccer team that was 500-1 that one time? Leicester City. That's what you can call me this year.
That's what Patrick is. That one football team that one time.
Patrick Cantlay, one and done.
Now, we were talking about this a little bit before I think we should have just used Scotty Scheffler. I mean, it's a 20. It's basically the biggest purse you're going to get outside the players. It is the biggest purse you're going to get outside the players. There's only 59 golfers. He just won. He's putted well here before. I think we just should have used Scotty Scheffler.
Well, I like what you're doing here, Rick, where hopefully everyone will now use Scotty Scheffler because that's up to 240 people and they get away from these picks. I see a lot of hate in the chat. So that's good. I don't want them to like these picks. They shouldn't like these picks. They should use other people.
I'm trying to move the markets now for the next couple of days. Trying to move the markets to get us some decent numbers on Xander, Patrick, and Colin. I'm reading the comments right now. Okay. Anything else, gentlemen, before we get out of here? We are off and running. This is now a six show a week podcast for the foreseeable future.
I got a comment to Paul, aka Bills Mafia. I would just like to say thank you for losing to the Dolphins on Sunday to let my Steelers into the playoffs. We're going to the Super Bowl. Mason Rudolph. I met him. I know he's an OK State guy, Kyle. I met him last year at a bar down here, just randomly. So people are saying my handshake to him kind of sparked this run.
What were your impressions? In-person impressions? Moxie?
Well, first our waiter's like, he comes up to our table. He's like, you guys know who Mason Rudolph is? And like two of us are like, yeah. He's like, oh, he's back there. You should go say hi. And we're like, are you just like blowing up his spot right now?
Dude,
like telling all your tables this?
Waiters do that constantly. Okay. So that has happened to us like 3 times in Vegas this year. We did not know who the person was. I can't even remember who he said 3 times, but 3 times the waiter was like, do you guys know who so-and-so is? And we're like, no. I'm like, well, here, she's in the back. I'm like, oh, okay. Like, what are we doing here?
What does that do? Just generate
I don't know.
Buzz or what?
It's like the guy tells
Mason
somebody.
Rudolph. He was a 3rd-string quarterback at the time. He barely made the Steelers. So now I dapped him up. I went at one of these and then around the back type of thing. And I was like, hey, stay healthy this year. And then I left.
Is he the one that got the helmet?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Who was
Myles
the
Garrett.
offender? Myles Garrett. Yes.
He played at Oklahoma State. He was one of the best quarterbacks Oklahoma State's ever had, Patrick. I think it's him, Brandon Weeden, Mike Gundy, and
doesn't necessarily translate to the NFL.
No.
Until this year.
Are you still speaking about Mason Rudolph?
Hell
or is
yeah.
there another Oklahoma State quarterback?
Hell yeah. Rudy.
Okay.
Zach Robinson. Do you remember Zach Robinson?
Who'd he play for?
He was Oklahoma State.
I'm getting a phone call right now. That's my phone.
It might be Mason Rudolph.
It's some waiter asking me if I know somebody. All right. That'll do it. We are done. I'm getting phone calls. The picks are in. We've covered everything. Hit the like button. Subscribe to the Golf on YouTube, Golf on CBS YouTube channel. Go get in the one and done. Go vote for us for best golf podcast. We will be eternally grateful, and we will talk to you. Oh, sorry. So, Josh, it's going to be like Thursday evening, right? Because this is a prime time situation. Yeah. So, whenever round 1 is over,
after dark.
Oh, let's get first cut after dark logo that we can put in the upper right. And then like first cut coffee golf logo. So that one, those early morning ones, so that we can have different, identities of the show.
I love it.
Okay. We'll see you Thursday evening. Producer Josh does all the hard work behind the scenes. Patrick McDonald is available online at, I don't even know because I can't see it anymore. P McDonald CBS, I think. At Kyle Porter CBS is Kyle Porter. You can find me at Rick Run Good. This has been The First Cut. We'll catch you next time.